starting this. And also I will make sure we have a Fathom recording ready as well to be secure, not to lose anything. I cannot add Fathom because it requires registration. Okay, interesting. We'll start Atlas presentation. Very happy to see all of you. I'm very happy to meet, as I said, familiar faces and meet new people. My name is Ilya, and I'm the project manager of Learning Plan Institute, working on peace, conflict resolution, negotiations, and mediation initiatives. And I will be very happy to present you my colleague, Anna-Lena, who is also working at LPI and manager of R&D operations, if I'm correct to say names, so she will be helping us today. And Mandar, who is one of the people who's actually contributed to Atlas the most. You'll find his interview, you can read in the Atlas about what he's doing, so he will also help me a bit with some interactive part. Unfortunately, Pavel, who is my #1 partner in crime in that initiative, unfortunately has a force majeure today, so he will not be able to join, but he recorded a small video to present and say hi. So our session today will be quite interactive, so therefore I'm very happy that we are in a very small community, because I wanted to do this as a co-design and co-construction together, because that's the values that we believe at the Learning Plan Institute, that all the projects and all initiatives should be not only highlighting great work that our partners doing, but also co-designed with youth and co-constructed with partners. So without further ado, I will share the screen and I will let Pavel say virtually little hi from the video that he recorded to explain about what Atlas is.
Hello everyone, my name is Pavel Luksha, and together with my colleague Ilya Lysenko, I am the co-author of the Atlas of Practices of Peaceful Futures. The idea of Atlas is very simple. We want to give people who are practically involved in peace-building efforts around the world tools that are available to any civic leader, from an individual that just wants to start this journey to a large team that is already accomplished and look for ways to enhance their action. We base our work on the strong but impactful premise that peace is a fundamental human right and a fundamental human condition. And wars have evolved as a form of conflict only in certain period of human history. And right now we enter a new period of human history where we have to find ways to make wars obsolete, or they become an evolutionary and existential risk for humanity. So to do it, we need to evolve our cultures and evolve our systems of governance, our education, our economies, to act as peace-based, not war-based. That's the foundational idea, and to implement it, we need to change our daily lives. We need to change our society works through practices, something that we do routinely on a daily basis. So the idea is to give people not just tools that they will do as specific projects, campaigning and making certain impact, but something that can be routinely done and form a new foundation of society, establish new cultural norms, so that peace becomes not, let's say, a condition that can be easily disrupted, but something that roots very, very deeply in societies on a local level. So to help that, we designed this atlas. It's an evolving tool. It is supposed to evolve together with communities around the world, bringing their practices to feed this tool, sharing their knowledge with each other, We think we plant a seed, the seed needs to grow. So the purpose of the session today is to actually help the seed become stronger. And for that, we will explore together with you what you think is needed, how this atlas can be applied, and how we want to evolve it so it really becomes a useful and impactful tool for every civic leader that wants to establish peace locally and globally. Welcome to the session, and I look forward to the results.
So that's Pavel, that probably many of you know, and unfortunately he is not able to join the session today. But without further ado, I just want to share how the session will work today. So I prepared a small video explaining what Atlas is, and also this video serves kind of 2 points: to get your feedback and also see if it's clear, and to present Atlas to you. And also we can use this video to explain what Atlas is in other communities. So it serves two purposes: for us to present Atlas, and also for all our partners or anybody who's going to be using this tool in their communities and their works, to create the same narrative, how it can be used and what is the tool. Then I will show you the atlas. I did not prepare any slides because I want to show you how navigate the atlas, how we can use it together, and how we can access some theoretical part or jump straight to the practices. And then we'll have a small interactive part where we'll get into the breakout rooms, and Madar and Elena will help to facilitate little discussions about co-designing and enhancing products such Atlas, and how it can be used and how it can be enhanced. So earlier this week, before I will show the video, I want to share that we talked about Atlas as well at the research seminar that Annalena and the team organized this Wednesday in person, where I think it was fairly positive feedback from the research side as well, that these tools could be quite useful, and this action research can be important to identify which practices we can use and how we can highlight efforts of peace builders on the ground, and at the same time how we can study from them and learn from them. As Hilary Kremin, our great partner from University of Cambridge, said, we need to think about way to remove educational violence in peace education, and therefore learning from on-the-ground players, learning from diverse cultures and diverse expertise is one of the ways to enhance peace education and make all the work that we're doing much more impactful. So I will maybe stop here for a second in case if you have any questions, or you want to share something, or you want to say something. I'll be checking the chat. And also, I would be very happy if you could drop a message in the chat and just say where you're calling from right now, where you're joining, and maybe your expectations for the session, or maybe something particular you just want to share about what you do. And it's kind of open floor and open invitation to get to know each other and to connect, because we have a wonderful amount of people where we can establish new connections and meet wonderful people. So we have South Korea, we have Ghana. Thank you, Mariana and Charles, for Seine, and Ombilin from France, north of France from Isabelle, and Abdulaziz from Canada. Wow, in Canada, that must be quite either very early or very late. It depends on your sleeping cycles and how you define your day. But thanks for joining. Charlie from Estonia, welcome. Gus from Turkey, from India, Laura from Lille, wonderful. We have Gaston from, oh, there's so many messages, so I'm barely mentioned to read them. Gaston from Benin, and Annie from Republic of Congo, are now from India. Wonderful. That's I think one of the beauty of the festival, that we could connect and get to know each other. So we'll have some opportunities to jump into the breakout rooms, get to know each other, and have some human magic happen to get to know what we're all doing. So I want to show you a small video presenting what Atlas is, and as well, this video will be recommended to all our partners and all our network to use in explanation what is the tool, so we're on the same narrative.
Let's be honest. We all want peace. But what if the way we've been thinking about it is all wrong? What if our very definition of peace is actually holding us back? Today, we're diving into a really powerful guide called the Atlas of Peaceful Futures, and its core idea is pretty radical. Peace isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's a basic requirement for our survival. This quote from Buckminster Fuller, it just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? He wrote this more than 50 years ago, but it has never, ever been more true than it is today. The stakes have completely changed. This isn't about winning or losing anymore. It's about whether we, as a species, get to continue. You know that image we all have in our heads when we think of peace? It's something like this, a quiet, empty beach after the storm has passed. But that's just a temporary calm, right? It's fragile. The Atlas argues that true, lasting peace isn't just about the absence of fighting. It's about understanding what causes the storm in the first place and fixing that. Okay, so first things first, why do our old ideas about war and peace just not cut it anymore? We have to understand why war has become a genuine existential threat in the 21st century. Think about it. Throughout most of human history, wars have been horrific, sure, but the species always survived. That fundamental guarantee is now gone. In the incredibly fragile, interconnected world we live in today, any major conflict has the potential to spiral out of control and become a threat to everyone on the planet. And here's why. It's not just one thing. We're facing what the Atlas calls a polycrisis, which is basically a perfect storm of interlocking dangers. We're talking nuclear arsenals, engineered pandemics, AI warfare that can escalate in the blink of an eye, all of it poured on top of the chaos from climate change. Suddenly, peace isn't just a moral goal, it's a matter of pure practical survival. So if that old passive definition of peace is totally obsolete, what's the alternative? This is where the Atlas gets really interesting. It introduces a brand new, three-dimensional framework for how to think about peace. First up, we have Peace 1. This is the one we're all familiar with, right? It's the baseline. It's about stopping the actual physical fighting. We're talking treaties, diplomacy, disarmament. This is absolutely critical. It's like hitting the emergency brake on a runaway train. But it's only the first step. This is where we have to go deeper. Peace 2 is all about tackling the root causes. It confronts what's known as structural violence, the systems of deep inequality, injustice, and exploitation that are baked into our world and create the conditions for war to even happen. Without fixing this, any ceasefire is just a band-aid. And finally, we get to Peace 3, and honestly, this is the real game changer. This is the ultimate goal. It's not just about preventing bad things from happening. It's about actively, intentionally creating good things. It's about building a world where both people and the planet can genuinely, truly flourish. Yeah, this image right here, this captures the feeling of Peace 3 perfectly. It's not an empty, silent battlefield. It's a vibrant, buzzing, thriving ecosystem bursting with life and possibility. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how in the world do we actually get there? Well, let's look at the practical tools the Atlas gives us. The Atlas is designed to be two things at once. It's a map and it's a compass. As a map, it shows us the entire landscape, all the different pathways and domains we need to work on. And as a compass, it gives us real-world, concrete examples to point us in the right direction. And here's that map. The Atlas lays out 6 key areas for building peace. You've got everything from our own inner peace all the way to transforming our economies. But the most crucial thing to see here is that they are all interconnected. You can't just pick one and ignore the others. It's a system. It all works together. Now, here's the best part, and this is so important. There's a role for absolutely everyone. The Atlas breaks down the actions we can take into 3 different levels, from really simple things you can do on your own, all the way up to huge systemic changes. Let's look at a few examples. So level 1 practices, these are things that any individual or small group can start doing tomorrow. Seriously, something as simple as a community meditation group. It's about starting with that inner calm, which is really the foundation for everything else. It's accessible, it's simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Okay, level 2 steps things up a notch. This takes a little more coordination. You could have a facilitated dialogue circle in a local park, for example. You're bringing people together from different backgrounds to just listen to each other and start healing divisions. It takes a dedicated team for sure, but the impact can ripple through an entire community. And then you have level 3. This is the long game. This is where we build things that last for generations. We're talking about creating permanent institutions for peace and reconciliation. This is the deep, transformative work that creates systemic change. So, seeing these different levels of action, it naturally brings us to a huge, fundamental question. Who is actually responsible for doing all of this? And the answer? Well, it really gets to the heart of how peace grows. So who is it? Who's responsible for building this new kind of peace? Is it up to governments, the UN, our world leaders? The Atlas has a very different, and I think, much more empowering answer. And here it is. This is the central message of the whole thing. Real, lasting, sustainable peace doesn't come from the top down. It can't be imposed by power structures. It has to be built from the ground up. It's created by all of us, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our own lives. You know, the Atlas frames this as something much bigger than just a political project. It's really an evolutionary step for humanity. It suggests we're right now in the decisive decade where survival is key. From there, we can build a new foundation, redesigning our very systems for peace. And the ultimate vision, an era of peace, where flourishing becomes the normal condition of life on Earth. And that really leaves us with this final thought, the Atlas of Peaceful Futures. It gives us the map, it gives us the compass, it shows us that a world beyond war isn't some fantasy. It's possible, and it's filled with practical, achievable steps we can all take. The tools are here. The question now is a choice for all of us.
So thank you for your attention. That was a short, small introduction that is created in Notebook LM, which is going to be also our next step, and we're happy to announce that we'll put all the raw data that we gather from all the interviews and all work with our partners into the shared Notebook LM and share it with everyone so you can use and ask questions with the generative AI system to navigate easily and faster. But I think that's the great moment to start showing you the atlas. And as I mentioned, I would be very happy if we could do this together. So I will share with you right now the link to the atlas. I think you had it in the invitation email as well, and it's always accessible on the LearnPoint Institute webpage. But that's the latest version that was updated two nights before our session today, with a few interviews and few extra prefaces. So it's a most complete version because working with international partners can be exciting and also time consuming because we need to gather every detailed information from everybody who contributed to me. So grateful for all the work that our partners did. So that's the atlas. That's how it looks. It's for now 135 pages of in-depth. You see my screen? Yeah, it's perfect. Of collaborative work, of many hours of interviews, of many hours of um, co-design and co-construction together. When we say it is co-design with you, we mean it because we started this initiative a year ago and we had some consultations with young leaders working with peace, having profound conversations before constructing the atlas, before constructing the interviews, and trying to understand what they need. We try to follow the research methodology, but it's not fully a research project. It is following the research methodology, ideas and logic, but the end user is the young leader or any community. So we try to simplify the language, we try to simplify the needs and get the questions that are the most needed, and also for the practices that are replicable, that are feasible to transfer from one region to another, so that all region context sensitive, but at the same time, you will see in the interviews particularly how they can be adapted to multicultural and much diverse situations. So it's constructed in a few large parts. The first one is the introduction and preface and description of organizations that LPI and Global Education Futures, why this initiative appeared. We also created an integrated model of peaceful futures practices, and you probably saw that in the video explaining why we need to work towards that, how we analyze what practice is, and I still think it's a big question to us how to define what practice ease, and we'll hold another session tomorrow. So if you will be there, you can join discussions and meet few other contributors. And jumping further, of course, you will have case studies and actual practices organized in a simple way, organized in a very comprehensive way, so that it will be easy to understand what other people doing, because we say it's a map and it's a compass. So we hopefully but we hope it will be useful for people to replicate the actions. So jumping a bit further, you will see that we start with the simple explanations that you saw in the video as well, talking about the architecture of peace, about different dimensions, that we have peace as the absence of war, in the sense of this very negative peace, where we need to push that stop emergency stop button, and we also need to maintain conflict prevention strategies. We need to promote mediation, negotiation, and diplomatic interventions and these skills. We need to have more like ceasefire mechanism and peace agreements and proper peace agreements, not what we recently observed in the world, the disarmament movements and post-conflict stabilizations. But we need to go a bit step further, because I think we already failing quite a lot as a global community in that. Nevertheless, I think we still need to take a look as positive peace, as elimination of structural, cultural, educational violence that we observe, and that we design economic systems based on very different models, that we design environmental, and we probably address environmental issues in a very different way. And we address the polycrisis, as it was mentioned earlier, in a more complex ecosystemic approach, learning how to deal with traumas, how to deal with cultural patterns. So, for example, I know that maybe some topics can be very interesting for you to explore. So on YouTube channel of the festival, you can jump to the previous sessions we held last year. So all make the whole narrative, and for example, learn about trauma healing from our partners Candice Mama and other great practitioners on the ground, and eventually reaching the state of positive peace as well. We simplifying a bit the language in Atlas as a state of harmony and flourishing. So we reaching this economic, personal, and outer peace, collaborative strategies where we need to target and look at the causes in the first place. I will pause here, and if you'll have any questions, I have the chat open, so feel free to drop any message, and I would be very happy, or any thoughts, anything that you would like to comment as well. So talking about who can create peace, we try to highlight some group of actors, such as primary drivers, such as civil society, essential enablers as institutional actors. And I want to take also a little moment to deviate where it comes from. Maybe that's what you have a question as well. Like, okay, based on what you wrote that. So this comes from a large series of facilitated foresight sessions with more than 100 global experts on peace building, conflict resolution, and people who are engaged in humanitarian work. And all these insights, they come in from these sessions, from these facilitated dialogues and foresight sessions. So therefore, if you have any ideas to add, feel free to comment and develop this further. So about the three horizons, we talked about that we now in the moment of decisive decade, and I think that talks about peace building, they cannot be more timely than what we observing right now, especially with multiple crises we deal with. And jumping just how to use the atlas. As we said, it is a map, it is a compass, but also it's an invitation to share practices, to start conversations, and to try to replicate and find some meaningful ways how you can engage with the communities or young leaders worldwide. And when we started looking at what people do in mapping initiatives in general, not necessarily everybody that we are working with directly, we saw that there are six main categories, such as inner and interpersonal state of peace. So we need to focus on a lot of practices. For example, Mandar practice is very much rooted into that category. But you see they all intertwine and they create the ecosystem. So sometimes it's really hard to define the border where the practice lands. The second will be about dialogue, mediation, reconciliation, negotiation approaches and practices, and alternative dispute resolution over there. So a bit more directly intervening to the conflict situation. Education for peace and partisanship as a separate topic. It's art and cultural transformation, and that's inclusive governance and civic agency, democratic engagement, participatory democracy. So everything towards this large number of practices, and ecological and economic transformation. For now, we put these practices fairly linked together, but maybe in the future we will have to separate them. So we doing more action research, as we say, and learning as we go from experiences, from practices. So you will see the detailed explanation how practices are organized, and what we also mentioned, we created 3 levels because we understand that some practices are very diverse. Something fairly easy to replicate, something that you can do with a very minimum amount of efforts, and maybe um, a very short, fast training process, which is maybe 1 or 2 hours max. But there are practices that require hours and hours and hours of training. For example, mediation. I cannot just be mediator because if talking about classic mediation, or some other practices require like anti-bullying programs in school. They require many actors, many stakeholders be engaged and transform the system. And they're also much higher level where you feel bottlenecked because of policies, because of the governance, because of economical challenges. So therefore, these are 3 main levels of the practices. You can explore in the PDF. We tried to map. It is an attempt to give an examples what this practice could be. So it's also collaborative process. Feel free to add any ideas, any feedbacks to that. But we try to map possible ideas on every stage. So we'll just probably zoom in here. So you will see that each cluster, each category is shortly described, and on the easy stage, on the moderate stage, and that on the complex stage, what could be the possible, formats of developing towards that. So just to give you like maybe economical and ecological transitions, on something very small base, we can do community-based ecological restoration or sustainable consumption campaigns, or some localization promotion and local economical practices. While we cannot focus on just and transparent supply chains only by 2 or 3 people, we need a bit more work, we need a bit more efforts towards that. And to create creative economy clusters or bioregional pilots or new city projects requires much more efforts, and they all described later, because again, I'm sorry, all these examples, they come not out of our head, they come from the many sessions like this and many research we did in the field. Any questions so far? We'll do little pauses here and there, and very shortly we will dive into the group work and exploration. So I don't see that there are any questions, so we'll be moving further. We show how we recommend to use this model. So as we mentioned, we have a user group as practitioners and activists. So these people can start with the level 1 practices, and we have many leaders because, for example, at the Learn to Institute, we have thousands young leaders worldwide who engaged in the programs on climate sustainability, on youth engagement, on changing the education projects. But they have this momentum of being experts in their field, even though being young experts, but very visible and very active. And they always mention that we want to work towards peace because we observe issues in our communities, but we really don't know what to do with that. So this atlas serves as invitation point to explore and answer the question what actually can be done based on the needs of the community. It can be used by educators and trainers as well, to showcase and explore what people are doing. Also start conversations like we're having conversations today, and they can adapt the cases to local contexts and contact the people, because we leave all the contacts and all the details who are the authors of the practice, so you can directly have a communication with them. We obviously hopefully working to share that with policymakers and funders, as well as a possibility to expand research and also um, to show to the field, which is very stylist, which is the work that all of you doing, to some areas where people don't really know, and you just, okay, so what can we do? That's another example, and we can talk that with politicians and policymakers, political parties, and any democratic institutions that you can think of. And another big category is researchers and evaluators, because it's a very complicated question how to make the practice. And many conversations we had, it's really complicated to measure them. It's very complicated to define them. So as I'm going to say in the end, but I want to bring that notion right now, it is not a report. It is not a finalized project. It is a process. It is the first iteration of the Atlas. And as I mentioned, we're very happy to find this narrow balance between conducting full academic research, but also try to communicate that in a simple language that is comprehensible and actionable for young people. So here you will see list of practices and all the descriptions. What do we mean by them? And we also try to give you some examples what we mean by them. And we try to show the whole spectrum of peace building efforts, because me personally, I've observed many times that we have such a huge silence between practitioners who work with the inner peace, practitioners who work with the mediation. I think maybe I will refer to Matteo because you are in that field as well. And you know how mediation, negotiation field can be very silenced and very closed and very sometimes elite slash privileged community. Then we have a lot of people who operate in human rights and a lot of people who operate in various fields, like in economic transitions, and we rarely have this opportunity to really talk to each other. And just another example, what Annalena organized on Wednesday at the Learning Plant Institute, this research workshop where we had large variety of profiles, and I think it's probably one of the few events that I ever participated and was aware how when we brought together all diverse audiences in one place, starting this conversation that we need to address these issues all together. So I will not be spending so much time on that. You could explore, or you can also skip this part if you really want to use the Atlas just as a practical tool. This is more for understanding what can be done. This is very detailed, described. We give some examples of organizations that you can explore. You can get to know their work, but they're not necessarily all our partners, and they're not necessarily being interviewed for the Atlas. We also put in some component about digitalization and use of AI, so you can also explore some initiatives. And that's probably the core, the heart of the Atlas. That's the case studies, the practices profiles, and founder interviews. So we had to do a little mix match, because we decided to keep for now only practices that have both the questionnaire field, the full information provided, because that was the process. We initially sent to all the founders of the practices a very large, detailed questionnaire to be completed that took around an hour, 2 hours to complete. They provided us with all information about the practice. We were asking about all the research that was done on that practice. So links to all the papers, all the reports, all the information that is created around the practice. And then the second stage, that was more for us and our team with Pavel to deep dive and try to understand, is that the practice, or that is more simple singular efforts, and it can be complicated, like replicated, and is it feasible to translate into the scalable action? So we had many criteria how we were not saying no, but deciding to include first practices very carefully over there. And then when we say, okay, that's something that matching our inclusion criteria, we further on held a 1 hour in-depth interviews with the founders. And Manda, you were the one that I interviewed you. So we really deep dive why practice is working. And you will see, for example, on AIM example, we try to show um, a short, brief business card kind of style, infographics to get the first comprehension what the practice is about. It links with the SDGs, so you will see that this circle is representing the SDGs numbers. So you can see that majority of practice, probably one of the research insights we get, that majority of the practices, even though they clearly having a single project, that's also another probably issue. We did not represent organizations. We studied particular project, particular practice, and few organizations, they could send more than one practice. So we try to separate, and rather than presenting people and promoting organization, promoting their work, what they're doing. So you will see it's very diverse. We try to also highlight the type of conflicts. So at what stage, basically, of conflict dynamic this practice could be implemented. 3 keywords just to easy simplify navigation. If it's blended hybrid delivery, if it's how long is the training, how many, if you need any facilitators or mentors, you need any special training or supervision, do you need any specific digital tools, which are like simple conference tools, or there are some particular practices that have their own digital tools, some platforms built. And is it a single practice or series of intervention? What is the audience of the practice? It can be one-on-one, or you work with large groups. What is the target audience? Is there any age limitation to the practice? What is the impact chain? Basically, how many people they already were part of this practice? So we're looking for these numbers a lot because we needed to make sure that this practice was tested many, many times. So for example, big story of AIM is 30,000 people who went for the big story program, web practice regions, their web page, also the head of organization and other projects that are describing the organization. Here we see the very short description of what the practice is. We kind of could call it executive summary, just to get a very simple comprehension what it is about. So, for example, we say that this practice is implemented in the following fields: economy, interaction for peace, art and culture, governance and policy making, climate actions, law and justice education. It uses art and culture facilitation, foresight community dialogues, volunteering training, workshops. It aims to develop this, and that, and the expected outcomes A, B, C, D. So for each practice, we try to keep this very short executive summary. And then we deep dive into the interviews. We try to be consistent, so we ask the same questions to every founder. And these questions exactly co-designed with young leaders. These all the questions that we co-designed together with dozens of leaders. Like, what do you need to know? And then we added questions that we needed for research purpose. So we tried to find this very narrow balance between that. So the first question, what is your personal story towards peace building? How did you get engaged this work? This question was particularly coming from young leaders. They said, we really want to know what is the personal journey of our role models, of people we want to be. But we want to see where they come from. We want to see what brought them there. What is their personal motivation? Because that's what gives us the fire to continue our work. So we were always starting with this question, then we were jumping what methods you're using and implementing for peace building, what exactly this practice is about, uh, why does it work for peace building? Because sometimes it cannot be very obvious, especially due to the silos that we have. We might be experts in one field, and then we have questions, okay, but how this contributes to peace building? So we try to keep this in mind. Where you can observe effects of the practice, how do you measure the impact? And another question was pushed by young leaders. What can we as young leaders do as first steps to move towards peaceful futures? What we as young leaders can do to get there. So we try to simplify it into very small steps and try to keep it very short. We try to keep it very comprehensive, not overwhelming, so that you will see there is always a web page and there is a person who you can find on LinkedIn and contact, and that's it. I will probably stop here. You will see that there are many different examples there. Wonderful interview with Mandak that you can explore and get to know about his practice. So we're putting as well, we were asking for pictures, we're asking for some real, how to say, artifacts, what people were having. So That's the real pictures, what they were working and like on the ground work. And for now, we have 14 practices. As I mentioned, all of them, they are carefully selected, but it is not the report. It is a living resource. It is something that we continue to contributing on very low efforts that we have. So because this project is not yet at least funded, so we're looking forward maybe some to expand this work because I think this can be a lot of work, joint efforts. I think dozens and dozens of people working on that, trying to understand, improving methodology, improving work, but that's it. That's how our year of work resulted in. We will have few more interviews planned already in the spring. Nevertheless, would be very happy to hear your feedback, would be very happy to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions, or we will deep dive into the group work and then we can discuss any questions later. Okay. So I will share with you with this document. I was really hesitant between creating the mirror because people who know me, you know that I'm a very big fan of collaborative boards, mirror boards. But then I thought that we might have some difficulties that people joining us from the phone, people joining us in the office, people joining us from different parts of the world. And I decided to make it less is more sometimes. And I created this document. So right now I will offer you to join one of the two breakout rooms with either Mandar or Annalena and explore together in collaborative ways these three questions. So you'll have breakout room number one and breakout room number two. So let's say that Annalena will be number one and Mandar will be number two for the breakout rooms. So however, I will randomly distribute people between us. And I will ask you for three questions. How could you or your peers use such instruments as Atlas in civil communication context? You don't necessarily have to talk about necessarily only Atlas, but such tools like Atlas. What could be the use case? How you as, I know that we come from very diverse background. We have young leaders, we have students, we have experts, practitioners who work in the field, and I assume we might have some practitioners who don't work in the field at all, but they're passionate about the topic. So any ideas, any thoughts from your expertise, from your ground, how could you use that? Or you don't see any particular reason how you can use that? That's also something interesting to map and explore, because that helps us to improve and join together efforts to make these tools better. How this current version can be enhanced. Maybe you have some questions, something that for you did not make sense, something that you were, okay, I did not get that. So that's the moment to really put all your feedback over there. And if you have any practices in mind, if you say like, oh, but I have a great XYZ organization that are doing that, or actually I'm doing something very similar, and I would be happy to be highlighted there. So that's the moment to leave any contact details, name of organizations, name of the people, links to LinkedIn, whatever you think that will allow us to get in touch with people and start this conversation to explore the Atlas. So that will be our, I think probably like we'll have good 20 minutes for that. Also, feel free to get to know each other in the breakout rooms, share your experiences. Just try to be short. I will let Mandar and Anlina, who are very experienced facilitators, run these two wonderful sessions together. And if we are good, then I will open breakout rooms and
I
I
think
will.
Charlie is my colleague Charlie. Yes, he's there.
Great,
Okay.
great,
Great
great.
to see you all. Hi.
Welcome back. I want to say huge thank you because I was traveling between the breakout rooms. Meanwhile, whenever there were no participants who were trying to join in, because we had a few people who had problem with connection, so joining in, joining back. So therefore, I could not be there full time. But whenever I was there, wow, the conversations were amazing. I'm really, really appreciating all the thoughts you shared and your positive feedback. and also your critical points. It's also fantastic. Could I maybe suggest if Mandar and Annalena, you would just give us maybe a few short highlights of how conversation went in your rooms, and yeah, maybe like a minute or two of little debrief how it went. Maybe Annalena, you can start.
Yes, of course. So first, a big thank you to all participants for the nice conversations we had. So maybe I'll just go through the three questions and highlight the biggest outcomes, if we can call it that. I think the first of the feedback was really positive. Of course, we didn't have now enormous time to really go through all the details of the atlas, and I think that's kept for afterwards. But the first feedback was really positive that in our group we had the feeling that it can actually bring some more inner peace to students when adapting these methodologies, or also the well-being can be improved by students. It looks easy to adapt so far. We have to go more in detail. And what was also interesting, we had a student sharing that he also thinks that he can use it for him and his friends to live in a more peaceful way, which I find interesting to see on which different levels the atlas can be actually used. So I think that was great. We had two really interesting enhancements. There was one, maybe we can add a comment section kind of to the practices so that people who tried it out can actually give comments, can communicate about that. And a second recommendation was maybe going even further and making or creating community of practice. So that actually people can really exchange on their experiences, what worked well, how did people really adapted to their contexts and actually learned from each other. So I think both ideas, for the comment section was really nice, but also then the more in-person way for the ones who want to go deeper. And what could be added? There was just mentioned one mediation peace building course. I think that was a specific case, but I think in general that was an interesting thought to think now how can we maybe also implement the Atlas in already existing courses, where it's very more academic, more traditional, and how can we now bring these practices in this academia world to help these students also learn more about the peaceful future. I think that's the main outcome. If any one of my participants would like to add something, please feel free. If I forgot anything.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I will have a little bounce back in a good sense on the question about peace mediation course, because I kind of had a feeling it's coming from Matteo, and then you added later it's coming from Matteo. So maybe I will give a little comment because it's also fairly interesting why there's not much mediation practice, and there is a reason behind that. Mandak, I will let you show
Yeah, thank you.
there.
I had a interesting global group from South Korea all the way to Colombia, but Colombian based in Europe. And I had, I think, mostly people who work in education sector. So that was a very interesting discussion of the application of the resource that you have pulled together. And finally, it's like, at the end of the day, we can write all kinds of research reports, white paper, but we need the bridge to the young people. So that was what I was delighted to have this discussion. We have captured everything on the Google Doc.
Yeah.
People have put their email addresses. So if you want to go deep dive into any of them, especially case studies, like I was sharing with them my work in Chicago, Los Angeles. These are recently I did something in Congo. So what you said in the video, Ilya, like peace building in UN, like all this is nonsense to me. It means what are you doing about it in your purview? Like you can't change the world, but your world, can you make a difference in your world? That was the highlight for me, that these are practitioners. They are the connection point for the Atlas to the young people. And yeah, so I look forward to anybody reaching out and co-creating something. I look at this as Ilya lighthouse projects. Yeah, it's just you can't change the world, but can you create a lighthouse
Yeah.
that people will say, I want to do that. That's enough. I think you have done your karma.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mandar, for sharing, and to everyone who contributed. So maybe just a few last comments before we'll leave some space to ask questions or discussions. Because how did we choose these practices? Because it's not complete list, and please don't treat that's the only practices in the world. It's not the case. Just because we closely collaborate with a dozen of large and efficient organizations that are part of the Learning Plant Alliance, which is Mandar and a few others, and Constructor University as well. We had many conversations with Zach and his colleagues about that. So we have a network which is very open to everyone to join the network. And we know that Charlie, you also part of the network, but we just never had a chance to talk about peace. So it's a global network of many organizations and many practitioners joining efforts towards education. But this direction on peace is fairly new that we do in Peace and Democracy. Yesterday we announced the launch of a Learning Plant Academy because sharing bigger news, probably you heard that we were designated a United Nations University status hub, United Nations University hub in Paris. So we're the first in France to have a label of United Nations University. And what was announced yesterday evening publicly that we became UNESCO Center category 2. So we fully joined the family of UN organizations, and therefore we can get a lot of critique for sure about
Yeah.
some efficiency, but nevertheless we working more in on the ground players with more on the ground. So we hopefully staying loyal to our beliefs, to our values, and trying to show that actions is possible when we have a dialogue between big organizations, which is a small track, but the majority of work happens on the ground, and we need to make sure that this communication happens. So I hope that this atlas is another example how practically we're trying to do that, and this is open invitation to everybody to share, to contribute. So initially, as it is not funded project, it is internally funded by LPI, meaning whenever Ilya and Pavel had a bit of extra time of of being able to communicate. And we had the Peaceful Futures program, which is a training program for peace initiatives that we are also working to get first initial seed fundings for us to start. So we just ask first close people to ask to showcase what they're doing. So therefore, these were the initial context. But nevertheless, it is open invitation to everybody. We don't have anybody fully designated 100% time working on that, so it may take a bit slower unless we get some fundings for that to get really accelerating that. You see, I'm very transparent about everything, so I would be very happy to include and everybody here. And Matteo, just want to talk about the mediation because I'm my background, I'm a professional mediator, and that's what I was doing. So that's how I know Matteo. Actually, we met in a city that is very close to Anna-Lena, to your heart in Vienna, in the Vienna competition on mediation. But we talked a lot with the International Mediation Institute about that, and I was talking with Ivana about this a lot. And it's really hard in the end to find a lot of mediators who fully focus on peace practices. So we had a few conversations, unfortunately people were busy to contribute, but it's becoming a bit actually much more complicated about our community. So, but it's not a negative result. It's a process of finding more people who we working on. Leaving 4 minutes for any comments, discussions, feedbacks. Just huge thank you for all your ideas and your thoughts and taking time to join here. I will leave the floor to you if you have any questions. Okay, so
I don't have a question necessarily, but I just wanted to thank you. I mean, it's an amazing resource. I've been interested a lot in sort of community-based practices around peace and studied them in intentional communities before starting this job at Constructor, and to have them all gathered like this and sort of have them as a menu where you can go and you can find one and see how you might apply it to a project or to a situation. It's a great resource, and it's the first time seeing it, so I haven't had the chance to explore it yet, but I want to read it more, and I'll definitely be in touch. So thank you for that. And yeah, especially for work that you're not funded to do. It's great. So keep going if you can.
Thank you, Zachary, and always happy to work with you and Construction University on developing that. And we were very sorry that Isaac Frumin was not able to join for the workshop, but many other opportunities are coming, and that's exciting moment. And future iterations of Atlas, of course, we're really looking forward to make it more user-friendly, because still navigating 138 pages with 14 practices is a lot. Practices might grow, so maybe eventually we'll end up with 500 pages with 3,000 pages. That's the idea. So we'll try to create a notebook LM as a source where you could just interact with all the raw data, with all the raw transcripts of the interviews. So therefore you can just ask questions. If you don't know, Notebook LM will be referring not to general knowledge of the data it's trained on, but we will select the data that will be trained on. So it will be on the Atlas itself, on the all the sessions of the festivals dedicated to this topic. So all the speakers that are already represented in Atlas, but they were speakers before, or they just never had a chance to really contribute to Atlas, but they part of our community of practice. And so that we will be able to use that in a more navigative way. Big vision, big plan, obviously, to have an interactive web page where you could just navigate it super easily, but it's a process, and slowly we're eventually gonna get there. I think I saw, Charlie, your hand.
Thank you, Ilya. I would like to, well, thank you, because this atlas is amazing. I already have shared it with some people who work also in peace building. But I would like to share with you a reflection by a person who has been very important in my life, but also for many people. Derry Hannam says, speaking about democracy in our conventional schools is like checking a travel brochure when you are in jail. And I would like us to consider how we are actually educating for peace or for war, for consumption or for collective thinking. We need to stop normalizing schooling practices. There is no scientific background on that. There is no pedagogical background. My PhD is in democratic education and education for social justice. There is no science behind it, and we need to break with those practices. So I invite you to explore the different possibilities of learning without conventional schools, and perhaps if we can collaborate in helping visualize or add some items to the atlas, it would be our pleasure. Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure being here. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's exactly in line of yesterday in-person event at the Learning Paint Institute. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's exactly developing on everything that was discussed in-person program about the violence that education brings. I invite you to explore Hilary Kremin, who is another partner in crime on rewilding education, and she's head of the faculty at the University of Cambridge, who's advocating about. She's a mediator as well, Matteo, if you're interested, as well. It's exactly her speech, and she gave amazing, wonderful, powerful speech last year at the festival, saying that basically schools, the way how we treat people, it's just prisons. It's like army. We have this currency of exams, and then that we cash out. So I will invite you to read her book and watch the little summaries that we have on the webpage of the conversations we had last year, and hopefully I think we'll do this year as well. Fully in line with everything that's being discussed. So you're not alone in this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing. I know it's time for us to say a short goodbye. Hopefully, maybe we will be seeing you tomorrow if you're available, because we will have a second event also with Mandar and a few other colleagues who will join us for the conversation. There will be peace. I don't know if it can be more beautiful name for a person who is working in peace building in Uganda, but Peace will join us talking about how she conducts transformative conflict transformation courses to particularly female leaders, young female leaders in Uganda, and how it led to nationwide recommendations and policies in Uganda. So they engaged all young people that's trained to co-design together the national policy. So we sometimes think that in Europe we kind of like trying to be the leaders, but many countries in the world getting much more efficiency than us. So would be very happy to explore these conversations as well with Juanita from Fundación Mi Sangre, that is working a lot with millions and millions of young people in South America, trying to prevent
Colombia.
Colombia. Yeah, I mean, I think in Colombia, but also they introduced a few other regions as well. So that's why I'm like very careful, like may say more macro region, because their practice been not only, I think it was not only in Colombia, but like they work in Colombia, but their models, they were already inspiring many people in their similar situations. So she will share about her work, how to basically they protect children and young people not to become leaders of violence, unfortunately. So I will stop here. I thought it's a good teaser. I hope to see you tomorrow as well. Please feel free to explore other 600 wonderful events that are organized at the festival by 400 partners during this week. We see many people who are organizers of the events as well. So please feel free to explore the program. I was very happy to see you. Thank you, dedicating your time, and always stay in touch. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Or the rest of the day, because we are very global today. Thank you so much.